Why is nothing on that PCB labeled? And the second is, those traces are absolute dog water. They look auto-generated like drop.
Yeah, they don't look auto-generated. These PCB traces, they are not auto-generated.
Look at that PCB. I won't go too deep into this since my knowledge in PCB design is very limited, but basically there's two things I'm gonna point out here. Why is nothing on that PCB
He's right here. Everything should be labeled. They're not there, so...
labeled? And the second is, those traces are absolute dog water. They look auto-generated like drop keyboards. It has no logic to it.
Yeah, so they're not auto-generated, but I'll explain to you why it's not good later.
Point 2 is funnily ironic because he claims a hardware advantage due
Yeah, it is all bullshit, but basically...
to the traces. That it's
everything
what contributes
after this is just bullshit. Even then, everything else is bullshit. The only thing wrong here is that it's auto-generated, just that it's not. So, yeah, I'll explain to you guys in a bit. It's definitely not auto-generated because of what he said. And auto-generated traces look a lot worse. So here's the PCB with everything. And, to be honest, it just doesn't show that it's auto-generated. But you can tell it's very rushed. First off, look at the traces here. That's very rushed work. Anyone who's going to do an actual PCB trace would have done it like this. It's just, maybe I don't know anything, but basically, it wouldn't have done something like this. It looks horrible. You would just shift the components to somewhere that is more logical. Something that would look like this. And you can tell it's really rushed because these here are at a 45-degree angle, but then this thing isn't. And that's the number one thing they can show. It's very rushed. Not to mention, Chris kept bragging about how he used very little vias, aka 4 of them only, and yet the vias used on the traces were the ones that mattered the most. The vias here, this is the data traces. These two are the data traces. You are not supposed to use vias, aka these metal things here. When you use them, that's bad. Very bad for noise. Very bad for everything. Which normally for a keyboard it wouldn't matter, except things that this guy was claiming that because of the traces, it worked better. And yet, there is the same person who used vias on his data traces. The traces that mattered the most on his PCB. In other words, this guy has no idea what he's talking about, and he's also the same guy that says that he didn't need diodes or decoupling capacitors on his PCB. So, yeah, he's built different.